Um, there are many forces that shape the environment we work in terms of as financial journalists. One critical one is corruption. You cannot divorce corruption from Kenya's financial journalism space. We look at factors to do with poor pay of journalists as one of the critical forces that support the notion of corruption. We find many journalists, especially outside the capital, are fairly under-remunerated. So they have to rely on their news sources, who are sometimes governors, police, DCs, and other government institutions, to be able to support most of their journalistic work. So at that point, most of the stories we get through are fairly skewed, fairly spin towards the interests that they serve.
When you talk about issues that affect the way financial journalist operates, one of the issues that comes to mind is ownership of media. We have cases whereby you can talk about companies like Jubilee Insurance. If you happen to work for the Nation Media Group, you are unlikely to report on a company like that simply because that is one of the companies that is owned by the Aga Khan. I can also cite a situation whereby you find I think 2-3 days ago, there was a story on Matiba and the fact that he had gone to court to seek for compensation for wrongful confinement. Such a story, you would see it in one publication and you will not see it in another one for obvious reasons, because some of the owners of the other publication happened to be in power at that time. So such a story would not be able to run in a certain media, but you'll see it in another one. There are also cases whereby, as a news reporter, when you're in the newsroom, you are told that these are no-go zone areas. You don't report negatively on this company. You don't report negatively on this. You can report on that. So these are issues that you, as a reporter, you are restricted in the amount of area of coverage that you can be able to report on.
Yes. I'm supposed to do this article on Safaricom, but there is one issue that is giving some headache. This Safaricom story, I don't know what angle it will take because of the commercial interest. Take for example, I'm not in a position to write an analytical piece on this company because of the big money they give to Standard. So this is having a very serious impact on the stories we do, because we cannot objectively report on these companies. For example, we cannot analyze stories on their dominance in the market. We cannot do stories on their abuse of the market. It's not Safaricom alone. We have several companies that are abusing because they do business with the company. We cannot report such stories. It's not companies alone. We have government, the government entities that have serious control on the editorial function. Some stories cannot see the light of the day because of this influence.
Financial journalists operate under a realm where we're governed by the Media Act, and also there's the Code of Conduct, which helps to guide on how journalists can carry out their trade. And if you look at the current regulations that govern journalists in the country, most of the regulations are focusing on accuracy whenever you're doing your story, and also it also focuses on giving people the right of reply. And this somehow impacts on how we work as financial journalists, because you get to do an interview with someone over an issue, and it is discovered that perhaps maybe this story had an issue in terms of its accuracy. The regulation has been able to make it possible for journalists to do the correct reporting. And also, still around regulation, you find that a lot of issues still stand out in the sense that, for example, when it comes to accreditation, we have journalists who show up for events and purport to be working for certain media houses. So the regulation has somehow helped to weed out the quacks in the industry. And more importantly, regarding financial reporting, the regulations also state that you cannot disclose company information to another company. So these are some of the regulatory provisions that Kenya has, but there are still more laws that could come in place and just help how financial journalists carry out their trade.
Technology has revolutionized the practice of journalism, and media has experienced one of the biggest changes in global business in the last 10 years. And part of the reason for this is just the big impact that technology has had, where it has changed media from being a lecture to being a conversation. So like now, you as a financial journalist, there's very little information you have that other people don't have access to already. There's also this whole thing for people getting used to 140 characters. So even as you give your stories, you're being forced to compress your information into much smaller text bites that people will have access to. Because if you make it too long, you risk losing their attention. Then the focus is also shifting towards day two journalism. So you're no longer breaking news. You don't have a handle on that. Let it go. So we have to change what we say, how we say it, and I think a lot of the focus now has to be towards analysis.